There's a phrase you may have heard whispered with a mix of confusion, fear, and fascination. Why do women over 40 seem to go crazy? It's not meant in a cruel way, though it often comes out that way. What people are really asking is why so many women, once past the 40-year mark, suddenly begin to break away from their families, dismantle marriages, and reinvent themselves in ways that leave everyone around them stunned. Husbands feel betrayed. Children feel abandoned. Friends look on in disbelief. But behind this phrase lies a profound psychological, biological, and social story. A story about midlife, identity, and the forces that no one can escape. To understand why this happens, you need to step into the life of a woman who has spent 20 years carrying everyone else's weight. She's been a daughter, then a partner, then a mother. And all along, she has worn masks, smiling, nurturing, accommodating. For decades, she has put herself second, sometimes third, sometimes last. She has been the glue holding a family together. But glue dries, and when it cracks, the pieces begin to fall apart. By 40, a woman's life is no longer about potential. It is about reality. Dreams that once seemed infinite are now measured against the clock. Biologically, her body is shifting. Hormonal changes, the approach of menopause, and a natural recalibration of priorities create a storm within her. The estrogen that once softened her edges begins to decline, and with it, the neurochemical balance that kept her emotions steady. For the first time, she feels moods swing like a pendulum, sometimes pulling her into anger, sometimes into sadness, sometimes into a reckless hunger for freedom. To those around her, it looks like madness. To her, it feels like waking up. This awakening collides with society's cruelest trick. Women are told from a young age that their worth lies in beauty, youth, and fertility. By 40, those very things are beginning to fade. Wrinkles creep in, skin loses elasticity, the body changes in ways that cannot be hidden. And what does society do? It makes her invisible. She is no longer the young beauty who turns heads, nor the glowing new mother who earns admiration. She becomes overlooked, dismissed, and at times, treated like she has expired. This invisibility gnaws at her soul, fueling a desperate need to reclaim significance. She wants to be seen again. She wants to feel alive again. Sometimes the cost of that desire is the family she built. Add to this the psychological milestone that midlife represents. For men, it's often called the midlife crisis, the sports cars, the affairs, the sudden career shifts. But for women, it is far deeper. Around 40, a woman begins asking herself, who am I really? What do I want? Not for my children, not for my husband, not for my parents, but for myself. These questions cut sharper than any knife because they reveal decades of buried identity. And when the answers emerge, they are often radical. The life she has built may no longer fit. The home may feel like a cage. The marriage may feel like a contract signed under duress. To honor herself, she begins tearing down what no longer feels authentic. From the outside, this looks like destruction. Husbands say she has lost her mind. Children say she has betrayed them. But inside, she feels she has finally found her voice. It is not insanity. It is liberation. Unfortunately, liberation and destruction often look identical in the beginning. Another factor lies in resentment. By 40, many women look back on decades of sacrifice. They remember the career opportunities they gave up to raise children. They remember the nights they stayed awake nursing sick babies while their partners slept. They remember cooking, cleaning, scheduling, managing, all the invisible labor that no one thanked them for. And then they look at their husbands, men who may have advanced careers, men who still carry their own ambitions. And bitterness rises like smoke from a fire long ignored. This resentment can transform a calm, loving wife into someone cold, detached, even hostile. She is not just angry at her partner, she is angry at life itself for stealing her choices. And so, she revolts. Now add the modern cultural script. Today, women are told they can have it all: career, family, personal freedom. But reality proves otherwise. By 40, she realizes she has been sold an impossible dream. Something had to be sacrificed along the way, and often, it was herself. This realization creates a burning urge to take back what was lost. Some women go back to school. Some start businesses. Some travel. Some dive into affairs, not out of lust alone, but out of a need to feel desired again. Each of these paths can shatter the fragile stability of family life. What does this mean for families? It means upheaval. Children who grew up in stable households suddenly find themselves in fractured ones. Teenagers watch their mothers walk out the door, sometimes chasing a life that looks selfish, sometimes pursuing one that looks courageous. Husbands, blindsided, scramble to understand how the woman they married has become a stranger. Family bonds fray. Trust evaporates. And yet, through the chaos, one truth shines. The woman is no longer willing to betray herself. Let's be clear, not every woman over 40 goes crazy. Many navigate midlife with grace, channeling their restlessness into healthy change, exercise, hobbies, spiritual growth. But the women who do break families apart are not anomalies. They are the product of pressure building for decades. Society squeezes them into roles, biology shifts their chemistry, psychology ignites their buried desires, and eventually, something must give. What breaks is often the family, because the family was built on her silence. So what can be done? Husbands who want to avoid this crisis must learn to truly see their wives, not as mothers, not as housekeepers, not as background figures, but as whole human beings with evolving needs. This requires listening without defensiveness, sharing responsibilities equally, and encouraging her to grow alongside the marriage rather than outside it. Children must learn that mothers are not saints, but women with identities beyond parenting. And women themselves must learn to speak earlier, to demand balance before the resentment builds to volcanic levels. Ultimately, the phrase "women over 40 go crazy" is less about madness and more about metamorphosis. A woman who reaches this age is standing at the crossroads of life. One road leads to silence and slow decay, where she withers inside a role that no longer fits. The other leads to fire, to risk, to upheaval. Many choose the fire, and when they do, families burn. But from the ashes, a truer self often rises. If you look deeper, you see that this madness is not madness at all. It is the raw human need for authenticity. Women over 40 are not breaking families apart because they hate their families. They are breaking families apart because they finally refuse to hate themselves. The truth is unsettling, but it carries a lesson. If society continues to dismiss women once they cross the threshold of youth, if families continue to take their sacrifices for granted, if partners continue to treat them as static beings instead of evolving souls, then yes, more and more women will go crazy. But if we honor them, respect them, and grow with them, then their awakening can be a rebirth for the entire family, not its destruction. So the next time someone mutters that cruel phrase, stop and listen. Ask yourself what that woman carried, what she lost, what she buried for decades. Behind the so-called craziness lies the story of every woman who reaches 40 and realizes that life is too short to live in chains. And when she finally chooses freedom, the world should not call her insane. The world should call her brave.